right. Let's get going here. Let's do this thing. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I think the last one was back in, December? And here it is, March of 2023. My goodness. Like, I'm actually excited, like, you do these when you do them every single month. It's like, oh, hey, it's webcast time again. But you go a little ways without doing one, and all of a sudden it's like, it's webcast time. Like,
oh, hey, it's that one time a month I turn on my camera.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
Everyone here can confirm that fact.
That's 100% true.
It's the one time you know that I'm a human or a really good AI.
Let me check real quick over into the chat. Hopefully folks can hear us. I know there's a slight delay between when we do something and when folks see it. So if I could get a quick confirmation that audio is sounding good, I just want to double check that real quick. I still have that music from the video playing in my head. It's kind of funny. All right. Nobody complaining in chat, so I'm going to assume we're all good to go. So with that, let's get back on track here. Like I mentioned, this is the March 2023 edition of the Windows Insider Webcast. We are glad to be with you. This is the first one we have done in 2023. Been a little bit of a hiatus. Things have been busy around here, and that's a big part of the reason why we didn't have one either in January or February. We were actually planning to do one in February, but some conflicts arose, some timings, some releases. If you were paying attention to the news, there was a little bit of Windows that snuck out the door. A couple announcements. Hopefully everybody was paying attention and caught wind of all that fun stuff. There's a lot going on at Microsoft right now, and that's the Windows Insider program is no exception, none at all. So before we jump into today's topic, which is likely no surprise, we need to talk about the recent Windows Insider program announcement for 2023, the new Canary channel, the changes to the dev channel, all this kind of fun stuff that's going on. I'll do a quick round table so everybody can say hello. Obviously, hi, Jason Howard, Senior Program Manager here in the Windows Insider program team. Happy to have everybody that is in chat joining us, as well as if you're tuning in after the fact via the video on demand. Thank you for making the time to come and watch. Hopefully you learned a thing or two today. We'll go kind of clockwise, at least how I see folks. So Amanda, you're up next.
Hello, I'm Amanda Langowski. I lead the Windows Insider program and some of the technology that supports it, like our channel structure and flighting platforms and targeting service. So this channel's topic is super close to all aspects of my team. I'm really excited to talk about it.
Excellent. All right, continuing on, Jen with I'm assuming that's a shark cat house.
It is. I was hoping I would encourage Basil to come and say hi on the webcast by putting it here because he loves it. But TBD. I have cats, I swear. Yes, I am Jen. I am also a senior program manager at Microsoft, and I am one of the many people who looks at your incoming feedback and writes responses in the feedback hub and all that jazz. And I have no idea what order we're in, so Jason, you tell me who's next.
The last person that is currently on screen, because we do have one more person we're going to be bringing on, that is Brandon. Brandon's got a serious face on today. He's like...
I'm helping with the chat too.
Brandon's also multitasking.
I'm multitasking now. Yes. But I'm Brandon. You guys all know me, and yes, that's the USS Titan. I'm always doing something Star Trek on these webcasts. For those who don't know me, I usually do a lot of the work around the communications and the blog posts that we do for flights and things like that. And so that's where you see a lot of what I do. So yeah.
Well, thank you. And so let me take a moment and switch scenes and bring on today's new face. I don't believe you've ever been on any of the webcasts, have you, Brad?
Nope.
All right.
Nope, not.
First time for everything. Are you excited? Hopefully you are.
Yeah, first time caller.
First time caller, long time listener. Brad, you want to take a moment and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Brad Giger. I work on Amanda's team and pretty much work on a lot of the systems that Amanda mentioned a minute ago that help deliver a lot of the tech that runs basically the back end pieces of a lot of the Insider program.
Excellent. You got the whole realm covered, from the implementation and tech to the social facing folks to the feedback side, the whole loop. Like, the entire gang is here.
You've been working on the back end stuff for ages, right? Like, as long as we've been doing, as long as people have seen our faces here, you've been doing back end stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
he's an old hat. You.
I'm always reluctant to bring this up because it always causes comments
You're
in the
gonna
chat.
say
But I'm gonna
the
say
P word, aren't you?
You know it,
I know.
Amanda. You know I'm gonna do it. Well, I'm gonna drop the M word.
Okay.
Mobile.
Okay.
Brad spent some time working on mobile back in the day. He back when, you know, mobile was part of the Windows Insider program and we were flighting builds or whatnot. That's actually when I met Brad way back when. You know, different teams. We're on the same team now, but back then we were on different teams, and I got to go spend some time bugging him and, you know, chuckling as he was trying to teach me and not get frustrated and wanted to kick me out of his office.
We all had less gray hair back then.
Yeah, I had no gray in my beard. It's this is a more recent thing in the past couple years. Oh goodness. Oh, as I'm sitting here knocking my keyboard around. Sorry about that. I'm sure that was pretty loud for people on the stream. Sorry about that. So let's jump in. If you were looking at the YouTube stream, there's obviously the banner that's just below the video that you can see. There's a direct link that I put there specifically that talks about the announcement blog post that was released last week at the beginning of the week, which is aka.ms/WIP2023. So WIP 2023. Hopefully everybody that's tuning in, if you haven't seen that before, please take a moment and pull it up. There's a ton of good information there. We're going to cover a bunch of that today. And if you have seen it, you know, obviously it's a good point of reference for any questions that you might have. I know that there was a lot of time and effort put into pulling all of that information together. So high five to everybody that worked on it, because I know pretty much everybody here was in there at one point in time or another. So digging in, let's start with the obvious. There's a new channel. This thing is called Canary. As part of the addition of the Canary channel, if you were, you know, checking out that blog post, we rebooted the dev channel. There were some big changes in that space as well. So Brandon, I'm going to start with you. So from the comms perspective, we announced these things. Are there any salient points that you want to make sure that insiders take away after having read that blog post? Let's start there.
There's a few. The first is that with the rebooted dev channel, you can't be on the 25,000 series builds and stay there. You're going to get moved to Canary, if not already. And that the only way to move back to dev is to do a clean install of Windows. What's really exciting is that we have a team of folks that spent a lot of time and effort in updating our clean install guide and video that instruct you on how to do that. So if you were to want to make that transition, definitely take a look at those materials, because we spent a lot of time trying to make it super easy for people to do that. The next thing is with the Canary channel, we aren't going to be doing the same level of communications that we had done previously for those same builds. Instead, we will document when there's new changes and new features in the builds that go to Canary, but we aren't documenting all of the fixes and known issues and things like that. Where Canary is more of like use at your own risk. Like if you're not comfortable with some issues there, we do recommend that you move to dev. And so those are kind of the main points. Yeah, I mean, from a comms perspective, we will definitely keep insiders informed of new stuff to check out in all of the builds. But for dev, beta, and release preview, we'll continue to do blog posts as normal. And then Canary, again, they're more of a scaled back, a limited documentation, essentially, is what we said in our blog post. I know there was some confusion about that last week. We did a blog post last week for Canary because there was new stuff in the build to show. And so when there isn't anything new, and we just won't do a blog post, but we will still do tweets. And then in addition to that, Jason and I are both working on updating our docs pages, our Microsoft Learn pages. Flight Hub will be updated for Canary as well. So we will document all of our flights there Windows Insider website that need to be updated for the new channels announcements, and I'll be working on those as well. So those are kind of the big key points that I had.
Yeah, and there's two things specific to what you just went through. One of them I just actually typed it in chat, and that is aka.ms/FlightHub, FlightHub, and that was the site that Brandon mentioned, where we have a detailed list of the builds that we release. If there's a blog post available for the build, it will link directly from the build number. You can click it, it'll be a hyperlink, and it'll take you directly to the blog post for that particular build. If there is no blog post, it'll just be kind of a static number showing the date and the build number that was released to a particular channel.
Correct. And then we will continue to release ISOs for like Canary and then Dev as well. Those will be listed as well on FlightHub, along with the SDKs. All of those same things will still be on FlightHub. So FlightHub will continue to be that same resource for like what flighted when and all that. Again, it's just limited documentation, so that we can scale to accommodate all of the flights and yeah.
Yep. And so I'm going to kind of put, in essence, an underline or almost an exclamation point on one of the other comments that you made, Brandon, because it is very, very important. One of the things that you have heard us speak about, I don't even know how long, how many years at this point, is about making sure that you are staying, as an insider, staying up to date on the most recent builds, making sure that you're taking bug fixes and security updates and things like that. To the point that Brandon made about the 25,000 build series, so 25, whatever the trailing build happens to be. If you are on that build in the dev channel, you're not going to get any new flights. You're going to be stuck on an older build without receiving any patches, whether it's bug fixes or feature changes that would be available in Canary, or any of the security patches that would be made available as well. And that was the reason for making such a big deal out of that in the communication that went out. If you are on the 25,000 build series, please make sure your device is configured to the Canary channel. It should have moved automatically if by chance it did not, or if you manually switched it to a different channel. This is my, highlighted, urgent plea for you to make sure that you are back on the Canary channel, because we do want you to stay secure. We want you to stay up to date. And then that leads to that second point. If you decide that you would rather be in the dev channel, or if you want to move your device to, in essence, any other channel below the Canary, there is the requirement to do a clean install. And it is, again, because of that same build number and configuration. You cannot install a lower build number from a different channel onto a higher build number. It's a limitation that's been in place for as long as I have known Windows to exist. So it's a little bit of a bump, but go ahead, Amanda.
To that point, I think I'm looking at some chats too. I think there was a question as to why wasn't there an off-ramp kind of offered, or people given a heads up. It's really important to note that the build numbers and the range that we were giving in the dev channel are actually the same as the Canary channel. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we felt okay with that sort of workaround with Canary is that the expectation in dev, if they wanted to switch to another channel, the clean install was always the case, because the build numbers there were always ahead. And so we weren't really impacting the customer. But it is really interesting to see, it's really great to hear the feedback, and we're trying to make it, easy for folks who do want to go to the dev channel, because we're really excited about offering more features on a stable base. And that's really the new big change that we're seeing. It's more about the dev channel reboot itself and the new offerings we're going to have in that space.
Yeah. And I'll take a moment to address another comment that I see, and I'll just read it word for word, right? I'm kind of scared. I'm running Canary on my main device because I ran the old dev channel. And there's a question about reinstalling Windows. So given that the build numbering is still the same, right? If you were already running dev channel builds when this announcement was made and the Canary channel kind of came to light, hopefully you weren't scared running dev, and I think you should have the same level of confidence being in Canary. Is it possible that bugs pop up? Yeah, it's one of the known circumstances of being in a preview program and running preview builds, right? That's always possible. Things like that can happen. We do, just like we did for dev and beta and release preview. Release preview doesn't get talked about as much as it used to, but it is still a channel option. For Canary, we still have internal self-hosting that happens. We run through the builds ourselves internally. We still do validation. We're still looking at our own internal data. We still have flighting criteria that we use to assess whether or not we should ship a build externally. And we still make decisions based upon those criteria. None of that has changed. The simple addition of the new channel, and then just the change in, which build series is being offered in which particular channel, none of that has changed, right? So we're still holding ourselves accountable for, the individual quality bars that we choose to ship to. And I hope you're not scared, whether, it's the person who left the comment in chat. I don't want to call them out, by name, or anybody else who may be thinking through some of those same types of concerns. We do still have those bars in place, and we still work hard to make sure that we're shipping builds that have, either no impact or as minimal impact as possible to whatever your daily routines may be with how you use your given devices. I think that kind of sums it up. I may be a little long-winded there, but I just kind of want to underscore that point because it's really important, because we do have those safeguards in place where we do our best. We don't catch every bug. We know that. And I'll point down at Jen. I don't know how the video's coming across because of the way the webcams work, but like the entire feedback process, right? That's why we rely on it so heavily, to make sure that we hear things that potentially we may have missed internally. I know that given the number of insiders across the world compared to the number of us here at Microsoft, they're slightly different. So, there's always something that gets caught externally that we may not have caught internally. And, that's one of the biggest things that we appreciate about insiders is their passion for the program and catching those things, because, insiders like to tell us when we didn't get it quite right. But hey, that's part of the cycle, and that's the way that it goes.
I love the learnings. It's the best part for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad, I'm going to throw the mic to you for a second. This channel change, the addition of the channel and rebooting the dev channel, this took some work. This has been a thing that's been it was something that insiders asked for in feedback. I've got old feedback parents. I don't even know how old some of those parents are, right? But the situation arose where, hey, the opportunity presented itself, and obviously we took it and kind of ran with it. I'm not going to ask you to go too deep on the technical side of things, but can you give a little sprinkling of just how big of an effort this was? I know there was a lot of partner teams involved, a lot of late nights, a lot of, grand spreadsheets of dates and times and individual activities. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about what went into it? Because while it's one thing to put out a blog post and say, hey, here's the new thing, and folks get to use it, it's a grand scale of what actually it takes to make this come to life.
Yeah. So, conceptually, we started talking about making a change to the channel structure about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 months ago. That's really when we started talking about this. And because the flighting system spans so many teams, and we have so many partners who have dependencies on listening systems and collecting telemetry and feedback and things like that from it, we had to make sure that they were all plugged into this effort. And so the bulk of what we did was a lot of partnering internally with teams and making sure that everybody was on board, everybody knew the plan, everybody was aware. The technical aspect of this was not as challenging, just because from a new channel perspective, we just had to create a new audience basically. But from that but from the rollout perspective is where it really got challenging, because we had to figure out how we were going to move people from one place to another. You talked a little bit about that a minute ago, with where we are moving machines who are currently in dev on a 25,000 series build over to Canary, where they'll continue to get updates. So a lot of the work was very tedious and time intensive. Things had to happen in a certain staged order of events. And so planning for that took quite a bit of work. And executing on that also was kind of tricky. So yeah, that's pretty much the run of it. I noticed there was a question over here as well a minute ago around would the dev channel or would the Canary channel still be getting servicing updates? And so I don't know if that's been called out yet in the blogs, but the second flight per week that we typically have done in the dev channel, we still plan to do over in the Canary channel. So the thing that you were seeing there, we will plan to continue to do that over in the Canary channel after we migrate.
Yeah, that was we did a servicing update last week, and we tweeted about it. So we will definitely continue to test our servicing pipeline with updates, and in the future, hopefully, service Canary channel builds with some bug fixes through those updates. But yeah, we had one that went live last week. I'm also getting a lot of questions, just real quick, on like people asking about, nervousness about being in Canary.
Okay.
Canary channel builds could include major issues that could result in not being able to use your PC correctly, and in rare cases require you to reinstall Windows. In addition to the fact that there's limited documentation, if all of these things make you uncomfortable, you should consider probably switching to the dev channel. That being said, we're still doing limited validation, and we endeavor not to mess up your computers when we do these flights. It's just, again, sort of a use at your own risk type of place. And if that makes you uncomfortable, then you should definitely consider moving to the dev channel.
Yeah. As an addition to that point, like one of the things that's important to note, right? Everybody has their own threshold of, they're comfortable, like how comfortable they are with tech, what issues they're potentially willing to, I guess, put up with or work around, whatever the case may be. And I will say this, like, there are obviously those of us, at Microsoft who run the Canary channel builds on our daily devices. It's how we get some of the information that we need to make decisions before we ship externally.
I'm on mine now.
Amanda is on hers right now. And so, it is not like we take a build that's fresh off the press and just say, here you go, let's see what happens, right? There is, like I mentioned earlier, right? I guess it bears repeating. Like, we do have our validation paths. We do have our flight quality bars. One of the things that's kind of happened internally was, as part of the process that we've been working through is, as we were, bringing up and standing up the structure for this new channel, the question was, hey, what is the quality bar for this particular channel going to be? Anytime there's been a change, the question has always come up of, hey, what expectations should we set with folks who are engaged in the program? What should we communicate to them? Right. And that's how you end up with, the detailed and thoughtful blog posts like the one that was published last week. So again, I don't want to sit here and repeat word for word what Brandon just said, but it is very important to know that each channel has its own kind of expectation of what you should receive in that channel. And if, you want the most absolute secure thing that's really just a preview of what's coming out in the next month's servicing pack, release preview is the place to be. The beta channel is the closest thing to closest thing to release quality from things that we are validating. Obviously, there's a lot of excitement with the rebooted dev channel, as is well documented in the blog post. And then, as we've kind of mentioned a few times here, the build series that is available in the Canary channel, that's the happening place where, things might get a little exciting from time to time.
And the blog post that I keep putting in chat as well, the link also includes all of the clean install guide and video stuff that we mentioned earlier on the call. So definitely check that out.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Jen's video is completely frozen.
I'm sorry.
No, did Teams kick you off? Did Teams kick your video off? Okay, let me take
Teams
a second.
got sad. I got sad. Everyone was sad.
I have a feeling. Yep, I know exactly what this is. Okay.
Jen, don't tell
You know
my
what?
channel you're on.
It's not
There
a
you go.
terrible shot of all the shots it could have
There you
gotten to me. Rocking the 80s hair. Yeah.
There you go. It's just as a small technical note, when that happens, because of the way we use India to bring in the video streams from Teams, if you cut out and then come back in, the OBS software we use for the broadcast actually recognizes this as a brand new stream. So I actually have to flip it and select the new stream instead of it realigning to the old one. So literally 2 clicks and a OK button and I'm ready to go. But thanks for calling that out, by the way.
Sorry.
At least you were in a good pose, Jen. There's been
I
other
know. It
instances where people are like,
been so much worse.
and you just get frozen in a really, really odd position. Technology cracks me up sometimes. Amanda, I'm going to pass the mic to you for a moment.
Right.
I know as the lead of the program, there's a lot of thought that goes into what the future of the program should be. Implementing changes like this aren't, they're not fast, nor are they easy. And I know there's obviously the consideration of business needs that go into making potential changes like this. Is there anything that you want to highlight or share along the way as the lead of the program for, you know, what, in essence, what we're doing now as we head into further into 2023?
I think, part of this really came from reading people's feedback that we're seeing a lot of new features landing in landing in beta. And that was just a natural part of the continuous innovation, like pace that we were going with on the Windows side, right? We want to make sure that we're delivering, these new experiences on a more kind of quicker pace to end market kind of customers. And so, looking at this, we wanted to kind of even introduce more of that long lead feature work in a channel that, that people can kind of explore a little bit more. We can kind of, try out, new ideas. And so I was really excited to kind of offer, like, reboot the dev channel in a way that kind of helps serve that sort of the desire from customers to have something that's, not sure if we're going to ship it or not. And it's kind of still, fresh, really fresh features, but on a more stable base. Right. And so that was a big motivator for us to go do that. In terms of, like, how it came together, it was just, really about, looking at feedback and other pieces. And we have more kind of queued up for, later this year too, that we want to go ahead and keep introducing for insiders, right? We're hearing feedback about how people want to preview builds all the time, features. And so we have a few more things queued up for this year. And it's just something we constantly look at the feedback. I mean, Jason, you see this too. We have our own feedback hub channel or thing for the insider program. We look at it every single day, just like any other feature team, and say, okay, here's what people are thinking, here's what we want to go ahead and adjust and think about our long-term planning. So we're just, in addition to, a customer program, we're also, a feature. And so we look at, all of these pieces, the stuff that Brad does about, how can we make sure folks are current in a way and getting those fresh builds, to, how do we want to hear about feedback and respond to feedback in a more modern way. So all of these things are kind of a constant cycle that we do, in addition to, like, putting out the flights, right? Which is always the fun part, right? To be honest.
I laughed because you said Insider Channel, and you're talking about the context and the feedback of, but I thought you were talking about the chat that Jason and Brandon and I have, which is called Whip It Good. And that's where we talk about all the feedback that the insiders are sending in about the insider bill.
Yep. That
I don't know
channel
if you
has
knew
been
that.
running on Teams for years.
I think it's like, we have all, I love our little, like, code names and stuff for our team chats. I think that, I have my team one was called Flight Squad. I think that was a big part, and a few others. So, but yeah, we constantly look at the feedback, and of course, anything that involves distributing Windows takes a lot in the background from a platform perspective, right? We want to make sure that the structure also works for not just the Windows updates, but for other updates that we provide as a part of the Windows Insider program, like for apps and store drivers. All of that kind of plays into it. So it does require a little bit of connection, but really this is the most exciting part that we've had, because I always want to hear about how people are receiving it, good or bad, and how we can kind of adjust to make sure we're meeting the needs. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Like, I always like getting your perspective, and I know insiders enjoy hearing it as well. There's a lot riding on your shoulders as the lead of the program, not to put any pressure on you, but we always appreciate the guidance that you provide, as well as some of the thoughtful and candid answers that you give, because it means a lot to be able to share that with, the audience that we have. Jumping back to some of the questions that have popped up in chat for a moment. There's a few things that I kind of picked out some that I want to take a moment and address. One of the questions is, like, what are the USB drives for the users who've ordered those? One of the things that we were offering for insiders that may not have had a USB drive, if they needed to do a clean flash, because you do have to create bootable media. They're just standard thumb drives. Don't expect anything crazy. The question about it was, does it come preloaded with a build? The answer for that is it's a great question, right? The answer to that is no. Specifically because with the variety of devices out across the world, both between the different editions of Windows that are available. Some folks are running Home, some folks are running Pro, some folks are running Enterprise. And then on top of that, with the number of language varieties that we offer. So if you visit aka.ms/WIPISO, so WIP ISO, we offer ISOs that are available for the different channels for the Windows Insider program. You'll notice the number of languages that we make those ISOs available in from a media perspective. So it wouldn't be possible for us to, go through and try to individually configure those USBs or just to put some generic build on there and then ship those out, right? Because if you need to install any particular language, we don't want to send you the wrong language and, you start to go through setup and all of a sudden, you're not able to navigate through setup appropriately because it doesn't match the language you were expecting. So that's the reason behind that. But, we wanted to take the opportunity to try to help provide a piece of the hardware for the folks who may not have it. Another question that did come up, and pardon me for not looking at the camera, I took some notes over here. Is Canary secure enough to use in an enterprise, or are there likely to be additional vulnerabilities compared with Dev? One of the things that we've been careful about announcing throughout the changes of the program is where we recommend enterprises, traditionally kind of referred to as WIP for Business, where we advise those folks to participate. Canary is not the default channel that we recommend for folks, especially given the changes in how we document things, as well as the notes that we discussed earlier in this particular call, right? If you are going to be in the Canary channel, much like for folks who had previously opted into Dev, we want to make sure that that's a channel where you particularly say, hey, I understand any potential risks of being in this channel, so I want to be there, and you intentionally select it. From the default perspective of, hey, I'm just joining the program, where is it going to recommend that I be? If you go look in the Insider settings on your device, it'll show the Dev channel. So both for just regular Insiders, running on a personal computer at home or whatnot, the Dev channel is the recommended place to be. Enterprises, there are specific concerns both between stability, obviously. I think I personally am less focused on the security side of things because we do provide security updates to the builds that we release to Windows Insider. So it's not like there's a gap in Insider builds staying secure. It's one of the things that we focus on diligently, build over build, month over month. So there's, I wouldn't say there's any particular concerns with that particular piece of the question. But it is important, especially from a stability when you're running in an enterprise environment and you have line of business apps that have potentially been created and you're more concerned about uptime across pretty much every minute of the day. Not that there's any less of a concern as an individual user running a device at home, but when your job and your income is based upon, hey, how am I affecting users in my environment, whether it's one person or if they have a particular ring they've set up inside their company, there's different things to take into consideration. So I individually would say, look both at beta and dev if you're an enterprise, understand the differences between them, understand the content that is being released to them, and do make note of the difference in the quality bars, because again, those exist from channel to channel, and just make an educated decision, right? We're not going to tell anybody, hey, you have to be here because you're an enterprise, but we do want folks to be educated on what those differences are so they can make that decision effectively. Another question that popped up, and I've seen this both in feedback that has come in across the past, it's been right at a week since we announced. So these questions come up in Feedback Hub across the past week, and it has come up at least once, if not multiple times in the chat so far, is the speed of Canary builds, where there'll be more than one Canary build available per week. And Brandon did have a note about this in the blog post. For any given channel, we don't have a specific guarantee of, whether we release one build or multiple builds a week. Sometimes in the past we've released multiple, sometimes we've gone a week or two without releasing anything. As insiders, you should still have those same expectations. Again, this goes to us, builds being available, meeting the quality bar. Should we release it externally to the insiders? We still go through all of those same processes. Are we looking at the potential of having, builds available more frequently in the Canary channel? It's a question that's been asked. Obviously, it just got asked in chat. And it's something we can consider. There are things that will need to be in place between validation efforts and, resources internally, things like that. Again, business decisions that have to get made, but it's a good question. And who knows what the future holds. Brandon, Brad, Amanda, Jen, I don't know if anybody want to add anything onto that.
Yeah, I mean, something I've tried to explain a little bit in a few tweets and as well is like one of the reasons why, we don't pre-announce, when we're flighting builds and what build is landing when is we need to have flexibility to make quick decisions based off of, things that come through our self-hosting efforts, and bugs may impact us whether we flight or not. Yep. And rather than having to course correct all the time when we don't flight, based off of established schedules, it's just easier for us to just say, hey, when we flight, we flight. So we just need to have that agility to kind of be able to be flexible there. And so that applies both to all of the channels. But, we have patterns. We do try to get builds out every week. It's just that committing to an actual schedule will block us in, and we need to have that flexibility. So that's something to just keep in mind on why we're doing that. We're not trying to purposely be cagey about if we're flighting. It's just we want to make sure that we're not causing frustration with the are they or aren't they type of thing. And one of the things we are getting a little bit better at is if we do know, so in a concrete way that we aren't going to flight in a week, we will do a tweet and say, hey, no flights, or we're not flighting Canary, not flighting Dev, just to keep people from having to just linger and hope and wish throughout the week if a build is coming. But just wanted to throw that context out there regarding the flighting and releasing stuff.
Yeah, and then just to add on to that a little bit, right? We're learning as well. This is the big stretch for us to do 3 active development flights. And so with that, we're always looking to make sure that the quality signal is strong, like the guys mentioned. And, what does it, how does it make sense to fly everything in a very safe manner? So we're going to look at that. And, we often try to bundle, but, sometimes we're going to learn to see if maybe it makes sense for us to kind of spread them out. We're going to figure this out right now.
And again, I'm going to continue to read the reference to the blog post in the chat. The blog post has a lot of these details. So I know, Raul, you had asked, and several others, please definitely check out the blog post. It includes links to the reinstall guide and the video and all of this information. So, and a pretty graphic.
And the pretty graphic. I did drop the link to that blog post again in chat. I'll repeat it again just for those who it may benefit. It is aka.ms /WIP 2023. So WIP 2023. Couple other interesting questions have popped up along the way. I'll take a moment to address those. If I am I'm paraphrasing it a little bit. If I'm in release preview and want to go back to retail builds, can I do that via settings, or do I need to reinstall the OS? There is a toggle in the Insider settings that will allow you to unenroll from flighting. You toggle that, and at the next opportunity when the build properly rolls over, release preview, this is probably not the most technical way of saying this, but the release preview is the easiest to roll out of, given how it is a preview of the upcoming patch releases for the next month. So hitting that toggle in release preview, there would be generally a fairly quick rollout that'll take you back. In release preview, you do not need to reinstall the OS unless you, for some reason, have to be out that exact day right now. Then yeah, you could do it. But if you're willing to wait at least for just a short time window, you should roll out without any issues. And then there was another question I saw that was specific to Canary. Is there a specific area you have in mind right now that will get a lot of attention in Canary first? That's a hard question to answer. I don't think the answer is... there isn't anything that I personally can think of. Brandon, I know you do a lot of feature tracking work for what's happening in the different build ranges of what's being worked on. But I think for Canary, especially with the changes in how we're documenting for that particular channel, anything notables will show up in one of those posts, kind of like the blog post that was released last week. But if there's anything you want to expand on for that question, please do.
Yeah, the Canary channel is going to be very platform specific. So things like, can you use Miracast? Is your wireless network working great? Like, we're making platform changes in a lot of the areas. Like, it's Bluetooth connecting to your Bluetooth devices. You know, functionality like that. We're looking for people to give us feedback on, you know, if things continue to work as we refine the underpinnings of the OS in that channel. And so I would say that in terms of focus, in addition to the new features when they do roll out and we document those, you know, let us know if your, you know, the basic operations of your PC are either improving, not improving, gotten worse, things like that. If you're noticing like the battery life is decreasing on latest builds on your laptop, let us know. We want to know about these things. And so I would say that from a Canary perspective, in addition to the new features, focus on those things there too.
I think just to kind of reiterate
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. We don't have the hand raise thing right now, so we're just talking over each other and doing old-fashioned style. You know, I think the other thing I just want to mention is, you know, I think I'm really, for the dev channel, I think is where you're going to see a lot more of those features that are kind of closer to the changes, excuse me, closer to things that we may, you know, incubate in different ways. And you're going to see a lot more of the experience-based stuff land in the dev channel. It'll still go to Canary, but there may be a little bit of delay just for the basis of how code flows. But that's why we're kind of really, to me, I was surprised that everyone kind of grabbed hold to the Canary channel. I guess it's the new thing, but to me, the big news was the dev channel kind of rebooting and this new offering, honestly, that we're going to be giving in the dev channel.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that this
Jen, did you want to say something since I cut you off? I just want to make sure you go back to
totally
it.
different. It's just like, I mean, you know, my philosophy has always been like, if you think it's a bug or if it's not working out for you and you don't think it's a bug, but it's just not working for you, you should always file feedback. Like, we're not mind readers. We really do look at the feedback. We look at the trends. We look at the volumes. Especially with the insider builds, I mean, like, we go through every single piece of feedback trying to figure out, you know, if you think you upgraded to a new build and something's not working anymore, it's really important to mention that specifically in the feedback item, because like there's some areas where we get a high volume of feedback all the time, and it's really important to distinguish like just general, we needed book time to make this better in the future, from something happened in this build that made it worse. Yeah, so it's always important to write that stuff.
Absolutely. And I'll add pinned one thing there, and this is not me going on my usual feedback diatribe, but I will say this: if at all possible, right, please file the feedback from the affected device. When we get feedback about an issue that's filed from a different device, we don't get the logs from the device that's having the issue, so it makes it more difficult for us to try to say, okay, here's the logs that showed up from the device. Let's look through, let's try to find the error code or the particular bits of, hey, this is what actually, you know, this was the error that occurred. This is the particular string that we need to go and work on, things like that. So understandably that there are some bugs that if a device ends up in a bad state of one sort or another, you may not be able to file feedback from the affected device. Understood. For the vast majority of feedback, it should be possible to use the feedback hub on that device to ship it in. So please, please, please do file the feedback from the affected device if at all possible.
And I think we did a whole webcast about this some months ago, right? But like,
yes.
If you're having perf issues, like, I mean, just saying perf seems worse in this build, I mean, that's a little bit of signal, but like, there's so much that can impact performance or Bluetooth or whatever. Like, the logs are just so important to be able to separate the different issues.
So I'm putting myself on mute for a moment because I have a very clackety keyboard. I've gotten feedback on previous webcasts and I am taking in that feedback. I'm actually sharing the link to the Answers Forum post where we document how to provide good performance related feedback, both for which category context to use, and then just the individual details on what is relevant for the folks who will be kind of diagnosing and triaging some of that feedback. I'm almost done typing, so give me one more second.
And I, real quick, want to dive in. Like, we got some more questions about blogs. Just as a reminder, we won't be doing blog posts for every single Canary channel flight. Only when there's new stuff to document, new features and general changes and improvements. We won't be documenting known issues and fixes like we normally did previously. There was a comment about the timeliness of publishing blog posts. I'm not sure where that came from, but we always publish our blog posts within minutes of the flight going live. And we meet together on a flight bridge call, and we look at the data and we confirm the flight is live before we publish the blog post. We have hit cases where we've actually not had the flight go live, but we've accidentally published the blog post, and so we're trying to avoid that in the future to cause confusion. And so we always make sure that we coordinate that to make sure we're publishing blog posts once we confirm the blog post or the flight is live. That time gap is like within minutes. So if you're not seeing like timeliness there or something, like please give feedback in Feedback Hub, but I'm not aware of any major gap in terms of timing there. If you're going to the Windows Insider blog homepage, yes, there is a gap in terms of when that post will show up. And the admin team is working on that. But the blog posts are always directly linked to in our tweets and referenced in a lot of other places. So when the content is live, the content is live. So just wanted to kind of address that from the chat.
All right. I will say, like, I think we've tackled pretty much all the questions in chat. I will review. I know that chat goes by so quickly as we go through these webcasts, so I'll kind of take a scroll through it after the fact once the video on demand is available, and see if there's anything else that we need to address, and I'll try to tackle some of those on Twitter, which is just twitter.com/Windows Insider, so you can always catch us there. One thing, Brandon, I know that there was a lot of work that went into this graphic, so I'm going to show the fancy image from yeah.
Oh, someone said they can't hear us now? Maybe it was just a one-off. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's two people that said no sound. John and then Zeno. Yeah.
Well, it may have been the way I had that screen configured. Sorry. I will remedy that for next go round. Anyway, it was just me recapping what each of the channels are. There were no changes to release preview and beta. Dev was rebooted, the new Canary channel, and then the tidbits. So again, go back and check that blog post, aka.ms/WIP2023 with 2023. And then if you have any other questions kind of after that, we can always follow up, either post them in the answers forum, answers.microsoft.com, or catch us on Twitter, twitter.com/Windows Insider. Like I said, I'll review the chat when the video on demand is available, catch any other questions, but we're getting close to the time, so I think we're actually going to wrap here. Let me say this to each of you on this call, both from the Windows Insider side of the house. We appreciate your participation in the program. We love the feedback we get. We thank you for your enthusiasm and everything that you do as part of the program day in and day out. Brad, Amanda, Jen, Brandon, both as a coworker and, somebody who gets to take advantage of what we do on the flighting side of the house. I really appreciate all the work that each of you put in and day out. Thank you both for leading the program, supporting the program, making this a part of, your daily life. Cause it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to split work-life balance, but we do the best that we can. So be it. But anyway, I just want you to know that I appreciate each and every one of you, both the folks here on the Microsoft side as well as insiders. That's why I get to do what I do. So thanks a ton for making my job a whole lot of fun. All right. Well, I won't ramble on any longer. I think we're gonna wrap here. So
can I have parting words though?
Yes, go ahead, Jen. Go ahead.
I'm so excited because today is the day that we had the 22621.1344 go as an optional update to retail a few weeks back, and today is the day that it's becoming it's going out as part of Patch Tuesday, like required updates. And I'm just so excited for it because there's all this stuff that insiders have been helping with for ages and like giving feedback, and finally like so many more people can see it. And like from the taskbar improvements for tablet users to the really nice updates to the system tray to the search box and task manager, after like 40 bajillion years, it finally has a search box and all that stuff. I'm just really pumped. You saw me making really serious faces while I was in this webcast. It's because I was trying to watch, because that happened at like 10 a.m. So like half webcast.
Oh,
half,
watching the rollout.
Yeah.
I just want to say, oh, sorry,
no,
Jason.
No, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you as well to all the insiders, right? I cannot tell you how many times I get pinged today by leaders across the whole company wanting to know more about the Windows Insider program and how they can, preview some of the experiences. And I think Brandon mentioned this in the chat as well. We often sync with the other insider programs as well, but I can't de-emphasize, at all how important the Windows Insider program is, and how people are really excited to really see the feedback coming in for these experiences that we're making. And then it's really cool for us to obviously see it go live to everybody as well.
Awesome. Well, I can't say anything better than that, so I think we're going to wrap. So
Sounds
Brad,
good.
Amanda, Jen, Brandon, thank you once again for all your support. Thank you for being here today. Thank you to all the insiders who have tuned in. And again, if you're catching this on the video on demand after the fact and you have questions, the links I gave earlier, hit us up on the forum, hit us up on Twitter. I know Jen has active presence over on Reddit. There's a Windows Insider section there as well. So reach out. We're happy to communicate. And with that, whatever builds come next, we're excited about those. And until the next webcast, enjoy. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.